which, because we're considering the past, is now present. We hope to make it present, let's put it that way. So, we might be able to, I got a county map that's a little more detailed. We might be able to figure out where you are. So, obviously, you're college educated, but where did you start?
Here's Gary's again.
Right. Yeah, well, that's the township.
Right.
Yeah.
Where did I start what?
Well, where did you start college and where did you finish up?
Oh dear. Well, okay, I went to nurses training in Lansing
Okay.
at Sparrow Hospital.
I think I've heard of that, yeah.
And I went through the probationary period, which was 6 months, and then I said, this ain't for me. And dropped out and worked the rest of that year and told my folks I was going to, so I called them and said, and I'm quitting. Well, why
Wow.
are you doing that?
Yeah, right.
And I said, because I can't stand it here. That it was run by these two women who were so bad. They would not let you do anything that was giving TLC.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would help to institutionalize the patients. There was a 14-year-old girl on my ward, and I wanted to go back after hours and read to her.
Mm-hmm.
She was in a total body cast. She'd been in a terrible automobile accident. Total body cast. Couldn't, and this
Yeah.
was before television.
Right.
And I couldn't do it because they said, if you do that, you're going to be, no, you cannot do that. That would institutionalize her. You couldn't give a back rub that wasn't just, part of the routine. You
Mhm.
couldn't just, somebody was just having, tired, but couldn't go in and give them a second back rub because,
Mm-hmm.
no, not to have a good experience in the hospital. So it wasn't nursing, it was the people who were doing it that
Yeah.
I just couldn't stay it. I just said, I can't do this for 3 years. So I quit and I called my folks and they said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to go to college. I mean, they had both gone to college and my father under great difficulties. I mean, he didn't even finish high school. His stepfather died and he quit school in the 8th grade to help his mother support the kids. So when he got married and he wasn't any dummy, he went and got his, I guess, the equivalent, graduate equivalent, and he went on and he ultimately got a master's degree from University of Michigan. And my mother had gone, she'd gone through 4 years of liberal arts and. But anyway, I said, well, I'm going to go to college, of course. Well, where are you going to go? I'm going to go to University of Michigan. No, you're not. I was dating this Steve, who was not a churchgoer, and I had strayed too far from the fold.
Uh-oh.
So I had to go to Albion for a year. I was paying my own way, but they said, so I said, okay. I mean,
Yeah, right.
even though it was my money and they were not paying my way, I had to do what they said. So I went to Albion for a year, and then I transferred to the University of Michigan, and then before I graduated, I got married, and we ended up moving out to California. So I still had, I don't know, I think I had 12 units left.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to get all my California history and all that stuff
Right.
in. So I actually graduated from San Francisco State.
Okay.
During the time that Hayakawa was president.
Oh, okay.
And with a bachelor's or a master's?
That was with the bachelor's, and then I went to Sonoma State and got my master's. Years later,
Yeah.
20 years later.
20 years later. Well, was that between 71 and 81, sometime during that period? Okay.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
I was already at SACU before I got my master's.
Okay, okay.
I used to, because when I was doing my internship, my master's internship, and I'd have to, I'd be sitting, I'd be sitting in consultation, feeling like an absolute dummy as a therapist, and I'd get out my SACU name tag.
Yeah.
Because there I felt competent.
Competent.
And I'd rub it like it was a talisman.
Talisman.
You know? I know someplace in my life I'm competent.
You didn't have one growing up, like a chicken foot or something? No?
No. It was hard. It was hard. I mean, here I was. I was teaching this. I was teaching that weekend chorus with Jay and
Right,
Harvey.
right.
And my supervisors came to see me. I mean, they came.
They came for the course.
They came for the course, and here's
Right.
Rebecca.
Yeah, right.
You know, this stupid Rebecca. I mean,
Yeah, but they didn't call you stupid.
No, but you know, I felt as though because they had seen me in this one role in which I was very competent,
Mhm.
that they expected me to be, totally competent in dealing with things. I never dealt with in therapy. It wasn't about sex.
No, no. It was more about crazy people. Yeah, right.
So,
So you actually graduated from Sonoma State then with the
Yeah.
what, Master in Counseling
in clinical psych.
and Clinical Psych, Master in Clinical Psych. Okay. Okay. Then you brought it back here. Okay. Well, we did find out that you were married and had a son.
Yeah, that's right.
Only one?
Yes,
Only one.
I only had one son. I had one child.
Okay.
3 marriages, 1 child.
3 marriages.
Yep. Schaefer,
The high school student?
high school sweetheart was Schaefer.
Okay.
And then I married Black.
Okay.
And then I married Kaplan, and I never took Kaplan's name.
Never took Kaplan's name.
By the time I married him, I was already established as Rebecca Black, and I liked it.
Mhm.
And he also Harvey has a sister named Rebecca.
Okay, so yeah, two Rebecca,
Two
yeah,
Rebecca
Kaplans
Kaplans
wouldn't have worked.
wasn't
No,
good.
no.
So did you meet Block in San Francisco, in California? Or?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He and I worked once I got out of San Francisco State, and I had a major in psychology.
Mhm.
There was a job opening at Napa State Hospital on a research project, and my counselor at San Francisco State said, "Rebecca, you apply," because I only had to have. I mean, I was taking
Yeah,
mostly graduate courses, because I had all the courses that I needed,
Mhm.
except for I had to have so many units from my graduating school. So I took California history, but I had all the other stuff that I already needed for my major, and so I started taking graduate seminars.
Mhm.
So anyway, my counselor said, what are they called in college? It's not counselor.
advisors.
My
yeah.
advisor said, "Rebecca, I want you to apply for this job, because these jobs usually go to the Berkeley students,
Okay,
and you are eminently qualified." So I applied, and I got it, and that was my entree into working as a statistician. I had 3 units of statistics that I took at U of M in a summer school.
yeah. On the banks of the Huron.
And I earned my living for 17 years on those 3 units.
You never know, was there any, kind of like falling into it
Yeah.
in a way?
Yeah.
Huh. So what was your job as a statistician at NASA? I mean, how
We,
did
I,
that-
we were on a research, I was working on a research project. The main investigator was Dr. Edelman, and it was the first research using the antipsychotic drugs,
Okay,
what they call the
Thorazine,
ataraxic
yeah.
drugs,
Hmm.
Thorazine and Compazine,
Hmm.
and we were studying a population on the back wards of
Mhm.
Napa. People who were chronically institutionalized.
Mm-hmm.
They had no hope of getting out,
Mhm.
and of coming out and living in society. They were
Mhm.
psychotic,
Hmm.
and so I was not the major statistician. I was more like a clerk.
Yeah. Data entry.
I worked under a statistician who told me what tests to run and stuff like
Right.
that, and then when we got through the data gathering phase, then the project moved to Berkeley for the analysis, and so I moved with it,
Hmm.
and it was in that point that I met Black,
Hmm.
and he was what was he? He had worked in this kind of stuff for a long time in Berkeley, at the school.
So he was a statistician?
Yeah, he was a statistician, and then once we got married, he went back to graduate school and got his doctorate,
Hmm.
and ultimately started teaching how to teach.
Mhm.
But by that time, we had parted ways.
Hmm.
And then I was single for about 4 years. I was single for about 6 years between Schaefer and Black, and then I was single for about 4 years before I met Harvey, and
Mhm.
we got married.
That was, when was that? Approximately.
You got married with Catherine then?
No, with Kaplan, with Harvey.
Well, we met in 1969, and we got together in 1973. 1971.
71.
Right.
We
2 years
came out
later.
in
Yeah,
73.
we came out in 73.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And we were kind of the ideal couple, because what we learned in our working with couples, we applied to our relationship. But alcohol took that.
Took that.
I
Right.
spent about 5 years thinking, I just must not be saying it right. He's not here. He's not really
He's not-
understanding
Yeah.
how damaging his drinking is to the marriage, because he really cares about the
Mhm.
marriage. It was such a good marriage,
Mhm.
but
Hmm.
didn't. When I couldn't do it anymore, then he started. He found other ways of dealing with it. So. By the time we actually separated, I had felt he was pretty much out of it. He wasn't present anymore.
Mm-hmm. The person you married wasn't
Emo-
present.
right.
Yeah. Oh, you have a visitor.
What's the matter, Lena? No. So,
So are you doing volunteer work here now, or are you?
yeah, well,
sounds like you're involved.
I'm actually quite involved with the church, because I have, it's hard in a small town to find places that challenge you.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, this church challenges you.
Yeah, I gathered that from.
So we should leave this tape with that.
No, any church challenges you.
Well, that's true. That's true.
But I have an office in this church where I do counseling.
Okay.
And I call it pastoral counseling because I'm no longer licensed. I have let my California license lapse. I paid it for about the first 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm never going to get back into working. so I let it lapse, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go through all the licensing procedures here, so I'm
Yeah.
doing it under the auspices of the church, so I call it pastoral counseling.
Mhm.
And so I have an office there where I do counseling and nurturing massage,
Okay.
from all those workshops that we
All those workshops way back when.
That's right.
Mm.
That's right. Getting in touch.
Now, did you ever take a class from Traeger?
Mm-mm.
Never got into Traeger.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Okay.
He did.
Well,
Did
yeah, when Traeger first came to town, I had this at the first workshop, and Katrina, who John Holland's wife, she's got a practice up there in Grass Valley. She's
Oh.
actually on the internet as a Traeger practitioner,
Uh-huh.
which I thought was, kind of interesting.
So what's John doing?
I don't know. We we stopped there to get a little gas and go to the bathroom, and we kept on going. But no, I really don't know.
We dropped in on him once, didn't we, for that?
That was before he moved up to Grass Valley. That was when kids were still in school.
Okay.
But yeah, let me see if I.
We try to keep in contact, but if people don't
Yeah.
respond,
Right.
you can't go any further than that.
Nope.
Okay, just a couple of general interest items here. So, is there a person that really changed the course of your life by something they said or did? Who were they, and what did they say or do?
You know what comes to mind first? I was down in Esalen. I had a friend who was part of the staff down there. She actually started the nurturing massage program at Esalen. And I was down visiting her, and Fritz Perls was there doing a workshop. And I went into the dining room one morning, and I went up to him. I said, "Are you by any chance Fritz Perls?" And he said, "Not by any damn chance at all. By a lot of damn hard work." Okay then.
Okay then.
So let's see, who changed my life? In a very real way, I think Harvey did. When I met,
Yeah.
when I met Harvey, we were both working at the Department of Public Health in chronic diseases.
Oh.
And we became, we worked together on some projects, and we became friends and talked about personal things. And I was in all kinds of therapy at the time. And it was a period of time in my life when I was really defining myself for the first time as Rebecca, not as somebody's wife or somebody's daughter or somebody's sister.
Employee,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, or somebody's employee. And so I was telling him about some group that I was, a Gestalt group that I was going to. And he said, how come you're going to therapy? I mean, why do you need to go to therapy? I said, to really find out who I am. Behind this role that I play. And he said, well, everything I know about you is so good. What can you have to be possibly working on? And I said, I'm working on finding out how much of me is this role and how much of it's Rebecca. Because I learned to be whoever.
A good
because
person.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, whoever, people are gonna like, a person that people are gonna like. We moved every 4 years, and I had to make new friends every 4 years, and I learned to be the kind of person they'd like to be friends with.
Right.
So, that was, and then when we really got together, it was like everything that I showed him about who I was internally, he not only didn't vomit.
Yeah, yeah.
He actually liked and admired it. And I could make mistakes, and he would, it wasn't like it was a big deal. I didn't have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I could be authentic with him. So that was why he was so important to who I am. He was the person that really validated whatever I showed him.
Mm-hmm.
And it really remains. It really remains.
In the same vein, of all the things you've learned from your parents, which do you feel was the most valuable?
Um, trusting that everything's going to work out.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that.
Earlier.
You
That's
mentioned
good.
that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. What accomplishments are you most proud of? Other than finding Rebecca.
Well, let's see. I'm very proud of what I did at SACU. I felt very, very competent there, and I felt very good about my work as a therapist in my private practice, which was much broader than sex therapy.
Much better.
But I really felt very good, and I felt like I was coming from a very honest place. I didn't change hats when I went into the therapy office. So I feel very good. I feel very good about my career. Not so good about what I did as a statistician. I really fiddled around as much as possible. Oh, I could fiddle.
So you wouldn't say that statistics was a career. I mean
No,
that was
it wasn't. It was a job.
It was a job.
That's right. It put food on the table. But I'm also
Yeah.
very proud of my accomplishments as a parent. I have one son, and I'm the only parent he had.
Mm-hmm.
He had stepfathers that came and went and were variously involved, much more involved than his father. But I feel as though I was the biggest parental influence on him, and that I did a good job.
So just off the top of your head, you wouldn't have done anything different.
No, there are some
Yeah.
things I would have done differently, but
overall.
overall I did. I mean, we're not perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
I made different mistakes than my parents, but I made different mistakes.
Yeah.
Well, and the times were different too.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there anything that you've always wanted to do but haven't done yet?
I'd really like to learn to dance. I am not going to. I would not know.
You wouldn't know where to start.
I'm going to change that. I would like to know how to dance. I don't want
Okay.
to go through the learning process.
Yeah, right. Oh, okay. It's kind of like unzip, let me pour in dance.
That's right. When I was in high school, a friend of mine who happened to be a boy, but he was not a boyfriend. He was one of these really cool guys, my parents would have totally disapproved of my ever dating him, but he was a sweetheart of a guy, and he tried to teach me how to dance, and he finally said, "Rebecca, I give up."
Funny how you remember those.
Yeah.
And I also would like to be able to sing, which I don't. And I have a cousin who teaches voice, and she teaches opera singers.
Well,
And she said anybody can learn to sing. Rebecca, I could teach you. Well, she lives in Baltimore. And I
yeah,
live in
right.
Michigan.
Given AT&T fidelity, maybe.
That's right. And And I would also really like to know how, I would really like to be able to sing with great gusto and
Yeah.
not feel as though I'm damaging people's ears.
So did you ever learn a musical instrument?
Well, I took piano lessons when I was in Roscommon, in Onstead, and I played the French, not the French one, I played the alto.
Sax? Oh.
No, it was like, it was a tuba type kind of instrument, but it was small.
More of a sousaphone size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also in Onstead. So that was in middle school.
Middle school,
Junior
part of
high.
the junior high band or
Right.
middle school band.
So I can pick out on a piano. I can. Let's see, that's here.
Yeah, right. Middle C. Let's start from there.
Right. But
Okay, for the last item, what is the one thing that you most want people to remember about you?
I'm gonna ask all these questions of you one of these days.
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
Yeah, but I'll
well,
have had time to think about it.
Yeah.
Well, see, I am known here as somebody who really is fun to be with, and I don't know whether I'm at see, but part of my experience in coming back here is I am more accepted as a hometown girl come home
Mm-hmm.
than I ever was as a new kid in town. And
Okay.
and I didn't come here until the ninth grade, and I went to school with kids who had been with each other since kindergarten and before.
Mm-hmm.
So it didn't make any difference that I was here for 4 years. I was still the new kid in town.
Mhm.
And when I came back, I felt embraced in a way that I had not felt ever in this small town before. And part of of how I'm described is she's so much fun to be with, and I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually have fun.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like you brought back some of the California sunshine with you.
Well, they kind of, if I hadn't been a hometown girl, and if I had just moved here from California, I probably would have been thought of as weird.
Mhm.
But because I'm a hometown girl, the way that I'm different, they find
Amusing.
Yeah.
amusing and interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you, Rebecca.
The farm to Onstead and the house that we bought in Onstead we couldn't move into right away. So again, we stayed at a lake, Lake Killarney, for a period of time and we took the bus in. We were still there when school started, and we took the bus in
Into Onstead.
into Onstead to school. And Betsy, there was a member of Quad S. She was from Bowling Green, Betsy something. And her husband's name was Rick.
I have to look it up.
She and Rick bought a cottage at Lake Killarney,
Hmm.
which is not that far. It's a vacation distance from Bowling
They're
Green.
from Bowling Green, right?
Hmm.
So if you were to went from Clare to the lake before Roscommon, then that
Yeah.
would have been during the summertime then, right?
Yeah, it was during the summertime. I mean,
Because there was
my sister, who is a year and a half older than I am, we have extremely different memories.
Hmm.
She doesn't even claim that was that my father built that.
built that.
Because she was giving it away.
Okay.
Her daughter had it for a while,
Mhm.
and her daughter had said to her mother, my kids are grown, and and the cupboard is really not something I feel out of cash too, and Donna said, well, just, get rid
Yeah,
of
right.
it. And I was at my niece's house, and as we passed this, she said, your father made that.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Well, and her mother says, no.
Hmm.
No, no, oh, no, he didn't. Well, where'd it come from? I don't know.
Right.
Mhm.
I said, I do.
So, would that have been something you would have made in Clare, do you think? Was he teaching wood shop in Clare?
No,
No?
no, that was made in Roscommon.
Made in Roscommon
That was
then.
made in Roscommon for that good Christmas that we had.
Ah. God, I wonder Sid Dyer's project. Of course, he was a student. Yeah, he would have been making that for a grade. So,
Right.
so
No.
where do you think your father got the woodworking skills then? I mean,
He just knew stuff
He
like
just-
that.
oh, okay.
What was the occupation of his father, do you know?
Farmer.
Farmer. Well, of course, being a farmer, you would have had to.
Be resourceful.
He's Amish.
Yeah, yeah, you would have had to make all your stuff.
You were gonna take a picture of that, probably.
Yeah, I'll take a picture of that. But I'm trying to. I think if you lived at the lake during the summertime, then my guess is that you lived on essentially the north end, the northeast end, closer to Roscommon than going around, and you would have traversed again Military Highway, which is the only road that goes out there to the north end of the lake.
I was going to say, you could check with my sister about whether we lived at Higgins Lake, but, we have such different.
Different memories. Well, now see, that's something she might remember for whatever reason. But that would have been approximately what? That would have been 1930, the summer of 37? Because your father started teaching that fall.
You did? Are you sure?
Well, yeah, because my dad started teaching in Plymouth the fall of 37. So he had to start teaching there the fall of 37, and that's the reason he's on the faculty of the 38
Okay.
teacher. So you would have been out there sometime during that summer.
Transitional.
Yeah, the summer of 37. Now, what would have been interesting is that you could have been in one of those cottages that my dad wired.
Probably.
Stands for the Sexual Advisory Counseling Unit, which was a component of the Department of Psychiatry at the University of California. The program lasted between 1973 and 1981. The other acronym was the Quad S, SSSS, and that stands for the Society for the Scientific Study of Sexuality. Needless to say, Rebecca and I worked together and in the homosexuality program during the 1973 to 1981 period, and we were both members of the Quad S group. The pictures that you heard us discussing early on are also part of the museum's collection. I would like to thank Rebecca for the interview, and that's, I think, all I have to say.